Hey everybody, it looks like we have pretty much everyone here. We're having some minor technical difficulties on our side, but I think we're ironing that out as we get started. I am Shancy Garrison. I am the Support and Development Manager here at HomeGauge, and it is my pleasure to be hosting this webinar. It has been some time since I've had the opportunity to do that, and I'm really looking forward to it. I appreciate everyone joining today. We are going to be covering the basics of using HomeGauge. So I'm going to sort of give that a little wrap up really quickly to give you an idea of what that means. We're going to only be in the software pretty much, with the exception of distributing the report. Typically, reports can be started on the dashboard, but we're kind of going to save that for another day since there's a lot of setup and things that you'd want to learn beforehand. So today we're just going to be focusing on using the software, writing a report, and making some template changes, that type of thing. If you give me 1 second, we're going to get started and just want to connect Matt properly. Hold on. Okay, hopefully we have Matt set up to be able to see questions and that type of thing. If not, I fancy myself quite the multitasker. So if I have to do it, I think I'll be just fine. All right, so let's get started. The menus across the top. File basically does everything the icons do to open a report, start a new report. Edit is your standard editing tools, and a lot of this will change as we incorporate when we select a template. The toolbars under View are basically whatever you see across the top. So if you don't want things to take up too much real estate, you can then modify that. Go is to navigate through the report. So we also have this tool over here for Find Unanswered, so you can navigate through your report and find things you may have missed. So it basically does the same thing. And report, when we have a report open, there's a different information that you can use here. And then template, and we're going to revisit this in a minute once I select a template. Enter inspector HG username so that your software, which lives on your computer, can then communicate with the dashboard on the internet, where all of your reports get distributed and where you download the software from. So if I click here, you can see username and password, and I always tell people to click off this box to make sure there's a checkbox in there so that it saves your information and you're not constantly logging in and out. We have view online appointments, which it is more common for someone to start their report from the dashboard and then download it into the software so they don't have to retype it. Sharing of the report through the cloud would allow you to send it from one device to another so that you don't have to start the report over. You can just continue working on the same report from one device to another. And then upload cloud templates and settings. This has to do with sharing information with another computer or a mobile device so that you can write your report from there. So the HomeGauge companion, for example, you would need to upload this information and then retrieve it on the companion. So all your comments and settings and all that type of thing would be there. And then of course we have the backup HG user settings and restore HG user settings. So we want to back up those settings when you're prompted, and we want to restore them should something happen to your device and it needs, you need to set up HomeGauge again, or even if you get a second device. HomeGauge allows you to have more than one device activated, so that if you had, say, an administrative person who needed to have HomeGauge on a computer, they could also have the same setup that you have without having to take the time to completely set up from scratch. Office, I mentioned these. Most of this stuff you're not going to use. Edit report docs is the most commonly used item here, and that would be to customize your cover page, or to customize your cover page, maybe summary cover page, that type of thing. But all these other things these features are predominantly moved to the dashboard so that the information is more accurate, because otherwise we're just basing things from what is on your computer, and you can use more than one computer, so that's not necessarily the best way to handle that. And then we have options here. So you can navigate through these menus and poke through them, because everybody's always looking for that little setting that says, I don't want it to do this, I want it to do this. It could just be a matter of checking something off or unchecking something. So general options, I'm just going to use that as an example right now. For example, here is the display backup reminders right here. So we want a check mark in that box so that it will prompt you. You have an option when that prompt shows up on your screen to say, oh, HomeGauge, stop telling me all that stuff. I don't want to see that anymore. But honestly, you're not likely to remember to back up your settings. And it is an important step because we all know computers have a limited lifespan regardless of how much money you pay for them. So you want to make sure that's checked off. And then you can explore some of these other items. We do offer the FLIR editor for infrared images, and you can customize your colors and indicate the temperatures in certain areas. It's quite useful. We have two photo editors, one for standard images and one for this. I'm gonna click OK. Starting a new report here, we have open a report, okay? And that the reports live on your computer. We've got print and upload. These tools over on the far right are for template modification, which means that you can customize the report where you start off, the template that you start off with. And these actually only light up or only usable when you have a template available, a template selected. And the first thing I'm actually going to do here to get started is to select a template. Now, whichever template is right for you, it really depends. I'm going to use a systems template, but you can use whatever you like. So if you come over here to the left, we have select a report template. And HomeGauge gives you plenty to choose from. All of them have similar narratives in them. So they're just boilerplates. They're not really meant for you to, they're meant for you to use out of the box, but it's HomeGauge's intention for you to create your own library and to use your own voice. We have regional differences in language and terminology. It's important that however you articulate the deficiencies in your report, that it be appropriate for your region and meet the expectations of your audience. So I would say you can look at these, but really, it really is just a place to start. There's so much more that can be done. In your software, you would probably see this systems. I've copied this one and I'm just calling it my own webinar. So they're identical and I'm going to use this one. It's the same exact layout. And now you notice that I have these sections on the left-hand side. A second ago, it only had these three and it had select a template. So now I have sections to work in. These are called components or sections. If I click on one, it has inspection items in them. And within that, there's also a tab for styles and materials and an overview section. And these three tabs are specific to what I have highlighted over here on the left. But I just kind of wanted to show you that before I get into adding a customer and that type of thing. So do your homework on templates. Make sure that what you want to use, look at a few different ones. There's a lot of choices. So I'm going to click on customer over here on the left. So typically if I had started a report on the dashboard and downloaded it into the software and opened that report, all of this information would be filled out. But for our purposes today, I'm just going to show you how to start it from scratch in the software. So I'm just going to fill out these fields. So technically, in order to write a report, you would actually just navigate through all these sections and complete the screen that appears in the center based on the section. If you just follow the list on the left and complete the data in the center, from start to finish, you will be done with your report. There's no hard and fast rule about jumping around. You can do it in that order and you'll get done. So I have my customer name here, Mary Customer. And I'm going to put her email address here. Now, I will say that the email address is specific to this customer. When I create a username for this person, it's going to base the username on Mary's name. It'll create it. So you want to make sure that you don't make any typos, double check your spelling, double check your email spelling. And I'm going to create an HG username. And what that means is I'm going to make it so that HomeGauge has information so that when you distribute your report, they know where you want to send it. And you control whether or not it goes out, but in the end, you're providing the information and HomeGauge is keeping that for you so that you can track more information from the dashboard. I'm going to click Create HG Username. I already have her in my contacts list. And I'm going to leave this blank. I'm going to let HomeGauge search their database for that email address. If they find it, they will use the username that's on file. If they don't find it, they will create a username for Mary Customer. I clicked OK, and it says created customer's account, existing account found and added. And that is because HomeGauge already had this email in their database. I'll click OK. So you don't have to put the customer's billing address unless you really want to. Typically, people just use the property address. So the only other thing I want to mention about this page is oftentimes it's not just one customer. You have a couple or business partners, and it's important to recognize that each person needs to have their own username and password. So Mary here has her Mary Customer 544 that HomeGauge created for her. But if she has a spouse or a business partner that she also would like to show up on the report, we would add a second customer here. And you can add as many customers as you like if it's important to you. But I'm just going to use this Add Customer button right here. Add a customer. So I'm going to use that so I can add, say, her spouse, for example. So now you notice I have two tabs at the top here. I have Mary Customer, and I just have this blank customer page. So I could put her spouse's information here and her spouse's email address, which should be different in theory, and then create a username for him. And that way they each get a separate username and password to access the report, and you as the inspector know which one of them viewed the report or not. So it helps for tracking and for good information. Always keep them separate. I'm not going to go into there's all kinds of reasons. I will just say it can be sensitive sometimes if you put more than one name and then you create a username and those people don't necessarily stay together. So that's all I'll say about that. Always create multiple customers. If you've got more than one, don't put it all on one page. I'm going to delete this second customer because we really don't need it today. I just wanted to make that point. And I'm just going to go down the list on the left. So report info. If you downloaded a report from the appointment manager, it would have created a report ID for you based on the date and the address to the property. So I'm going to use that same format just because I think that report IDs should be unique to the property, and I prefer not to use chronological numbers. So I'm going to add the address first, and then I'll create the report ID based on the address. So I'm going to say 456 Apple Tree Court. We can just use Asheville. The only things you have to fill out here are the street address, city, state, and zip code. You don't have to put country or county or MLS. In order to upload your report, you need to just have that, like the mailing address, what you'd put on an envelope. So I'm going to use this address to create a report ID. So the first thing I like to include in a report ID is the year and the month and the day. And then I just put the name of the street. Because it's not likely that you're going to do an inspection on the same street on the same day. If you do, you can always put an A or a B after the address because you need those report IDs to be unique. The software will prompt you if you duplicate a report ID, not to worry. The other thing that I have is the real estate professional. Typically in the United States, the buyer or and the agent both get the report. It's my understanding Canada, it does not work that way. So if I want to add an agent to this, I have to do one of two things. I have to either create an account for an agent, or I can just pick one from my contact list. So let's look over here on the right-hand side on this panel, which I was going to get to before I realized I wasn't showing my screen. I have these three tabs across the top: pictures, drawings, and contacts. Right now we're going to work on contacts. I've already added a realtor here, Mary Realtor, who we'll select in just a moment. But if I needed to add something new, I could just use this contact, just this little plus sign. Typically, you'll add realtors manually. When you add a customer to the report, they automatically get added to your contact list, so you don't have to do that for customers. I'll click on this, and I would pick whether it's a rep or a customer, but because it's more traditionally a rep or an agent, when I add from here, it's going to automatically default to that. And I'd also like to add that a rep isn't necessarily an agent. A rep can be a title company. It can be an insurance company. It can be an attorney, a real estate professional. It's not necessarily only an agent. So you would just fill out this information for your agent or real estate professional, And then you would also click on the tab that says HG username, and you would put their email address in and create the username. I will point out that I know oftentimes agents have multiple email addresses, and that's okay, but if they've already had an account with us, you really just want to fill one of these in, and they can always log in later and add more email addresses that they'd like a notification to. So just to point out, and once you add that, you would create your username. So I'm just going to add Mary Realtor here. So you can see that I've highlighted that on the right. I can either right click on that and add as rep in current report, or I can highlight it and come down and add from reps list down here, and it would add it as well, as long as the agent is highlighted in that list on the right. Just right click, add as rep in report. And now you can see I have Mary Realtor right here. And when we upload the report, HomeGauge knows her username and password and how to distribute that. So we know that we want to include her. Down here we have our inspector's information and the date of the inspection. If you'd like to put the start and stop time, that's up to you. I know some states require that, or some standards require that. So basically, here we are. We've got our address, we've got our customer, and we're going to move into miscellaneous, and hopefully quickly we'll get into the actual report writing. These are just things you just need to know how to navigate through, because if you didn't, if you just went into it and wrote the report, well, you still need to know how to get the customer information in there and make sure everything is complete. I will point out that a lot of the stuff we're about to cover in miscellaneous has moved to the dashboard, but for an emergency or in a pinch, it doesn't hurt to know where those things are in your software. Agreements don't get done through the software anymore, really. It is done from the dashboard, so I'm not going to cover that. But you might have some other attachments that you might like to include in your report. For example, maybe a welcome to your new home brochure or something on a home warranty. So you can use these buttons to include information in your report. So when we do that, if I click on this little paper clip, it says add a default attachment. That means an attachment that would show up in this in a short list of things that you like to add regularly. So if I click on there, I could navigate my computer using this plus sign to find a document that would show up in this list in the future, and I could just grab it and it would be a link in my report. It was just like a short list of things. This would be something you'd use over and over again, something not specific to the inspection. So, you know, welcome to your new home brochure or a home warranty information that doesn't have your customer's name on it. It's just basic information, broad information. Whereas if I'm going to hit cancel here. If I use this plus sign right here, it's just going to take me to the files on my computer. And that might be something that's specific to the customer. It's something you're only going to use once. And that's why we wouldn't want it to be in a short list for you to grab it. It's probably going to have the property address on it or the customer's information on it. And you wouldn't obviously use that for anyone else. We have our invoice here. So HomeGauge starts you off with this list, and they give you your pricing. Obviously, it's different for every market. You should know your market pricing, that what you can charge. If you'd like to use this, use it. If you'd like to customize it, you can just highlight one of them, and then you're going to use these little tools on the right. So we have this little wrench if you want to change the item that you have highlighted, this little plus sign if you would like to add a brand new item in the list, this X, which would delete whatever's highlighted, and then these arrows allow you to reorganize the list based on how you would like it to be. Okay, so for this one right here, the 450, let's say I really meant to make it 425, or it should be 425 for my market. I would select the wrench because that's highlighted. I need to change it. I want to fix it, kind of think of it as a tool. I want to fix it the way I want it, and I'm going to change this to 425. If you want to include tax, if you're in a state that includes tax, which is not terribly common to include tax on a service for this type of service, I think Washington State might do it, you can add your percentage here and check this box off. So now I have 425. If I wanted this invoice to be included in the body of my report, I could just select in this left column and there's an X, and you'll notice down here on the bottom of this, it then puts the total. You can't just type in here. You have to select something and it will add it up. So if I picked multiple things here, it would add it up for me. I can indicate the payment method, the payment status, as well as a note. But none of this has functionality for payment. You're just like providing an invoice. That's all it does, is provide an invoice to your customer. We then have inspector info. Oh, actually, when I navigate away from this, because it knows that I made a change, it's asking me if that change, I would like that to be applied for future reports. And I say yes, because I meant for it to be 425 all the time. And now inspector info. This is really just notes for you. Don't let the cat out. There's a ferocious rabbit in the backyard. I don't know. You can type whatever you want. What the code to the key box is, the lock box is, you might put that here. Nobody sees it but you, for your own references. Your lead sources. This also has moved to the dashboard, but if you want to track it from your computer, you can indicate where you got your business if you're running any advertising or a specific contact, maybe an agent that gives you repeat business or has referred other agents to you. So I guess you can know who to send a card at the holidays and who to send a fruit basket if they've got given you a lot of business. The mileage, we all know being self-employed means keeping track of stuff like that. If you wanted to, use Google Maps or keep track of your mileage, you could enter it here, and then you could run a report on it at the end of the year. That also has moved to the dashboard, which is a little bit more sensible, but if you care to do it from here, you can. And then driving directions, which is pretty self-explanatory. Radon tests. Radon tests are becoming more common across the country. And we work with a company called AirCheck that allows their kits to synchronize with our system so that when you buy kits, you can have all the kit numbers show up in a drop-down. And when you issue a kit, the results would be available on your HomeGauge dashboard immediately, and you would just review them and distribute them accordingly. You wouldn't have to manually upload anything. I will say that these are charcoal kits. They are not continuous monitors, so that's important for you to know based on whatever type of tool you prefer for radon testing if it's part of your services. We have forms as well, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Typically, forms are mostly used in Florida. They're used for other things, but Florida is a big state because you can't get insurance without certain types of information being provided, and so things like a 4-point inspections or a wind mitigation form, they need to be completed so that even a transaction can be closed. HomeGauge comes with several of these forms. You can purchase other types of forms, but if you click this little plus sign right here, you can see the list of forms that come with the standard install. Here's another radon form in case you used an alternative type of radon kit, even a continuous monitor. And you see the Florida WMIT, that type of thing. You can purchase wood destroying organism forms from us based on whatever your state regulations are. We have the NPMA 33, we have Florida's specific wood destroying organism. We've got everything pretty much. So if you're interested in that, just shoot us support an email. So when you select one of these, I'm just going to select, the Citizens 4-point. It shows you like the fields that you can complete, and it also has what we call merge fields so that you do not have to repopulate these. It will read from whatever you typed in on the customer side. On the standard report, it will populate that. So it's a little bit easier, and then you would just complete the information, and this would show up as an attachment to your report. I'm going to remove this, but if you provide those type of services, it's important. Now we're going to get into the report stuff. As I come down here into general info, this is basically where we start to include information about this particular property and what your discoveries are. Here we have the comment key and definitions. So this is standard that HomeGauge provides. We talk about inspected, not present, repair, replace. You don't have to use that language. You can customize that based on your own preferences. You might say deficient instead of repair, replace. Texas has specific regulations for how this can be worded. We do have a Texas template for that, but you can customize this. We also have the general items down here at the bottom. So let me just get my little highlighter and say who's in attendance, the type of building that it is, approximate age of building. All of this can be customized. This is just a place to start. But you'll notice some of these are excluded. Style of home, for example. It has an X here. That means that even if I populated this, even if I selected something from this right-hand list, it still wouldn't show up in my report. Now, HomeGauge would warn me that I have had completed part of the report that was excluded, but it's important to know that if there's an X there, you cannot, you have to include it in order to include it in your report. So if I just wanted to do that on the fly, I'd say, oh, I want to include the style of home. I would just click on this red X and it would remove it. And now it's no longer excluded, and I could indicate what type of home it is. The same thing goes for anything else. Let's say you don't include whether or not, maybe you don't include radon, maybe you're not doing radon. You can exclude that on the fly by clicking in the left column. Water test, you can exclude that. But otherwise, you're just populating these sections. So if I click on in attendance, I can say it's the customer and their agent. With the type of building, it's a single family home. So I would just go through here and I would populate all of these things. If I wanted to exclude it, I would exclude it, and that would pretty much be it. And you'll notice that I get these little blue check boxes here. So the little checks in the boxes, so I know that it's complete. The S stands for status. F stands for flagged. So let's look at approximate age of building for a minute. I'm going to erase this under 5 years. There's a little eraser over here on the right, if you can see that. Little eraser, so it'll erase whatever I selected from there. Say I saw the house and I thought, oh gosh, I don't know how old this house is, and I think it's so old that I really need to find out the exact age because maybe it's super old. Well, I wouldn't populate this, but I might click in this far left column under F for flagged. It's going to tell me it's going to flag that item so that I could revisit it later, so I don't forget that I wanted to research the age of the home. I can also navigate through my report for it to show me all flagged items, and then I can unflag them as I need to. But once I discover, how old the house really is, I could just come and type it in this box, and you can say it's 150 years old. It's pretty old, and you should spell years right. So here, that's pretty standard, nothing fancy here. What we also have to do from this screen is incorporate our cover page picture. So let's talk about photos for just a minute. I am going to revisit these tabs over here, and I'm going to click on pictures. So here I can browse my computer. So on my computer, I have a folder of pictures that I would like to use for my inspection. So in theory, you would have taken these with your point and shoot and stored them somewhere on your computer. Now, my software is already pointing to the folder, but just for example, I'm going to show you how to find it. So I'm going to click the word browse, and it will take me to all the files on my computer. And what I really need is to go to my desktop, which is right here. And on my desktop, I have a folder called webinar photos. And when I select this, it's going to load those photos on the right-hand side. I'll click OK. And there they are. These pictures are not in my report. All this is a quick access panel for myself, so I don't have to have a separate folder open and dragging pictures in. It just makes it easier for me to see these. If the pictures are too small, you can use this little tool at the top right here and make the pictures a little bit bigger for your own viewing. The size of the pictures in this panel do not represent the size that they would be in the report. So if I come up here and I click on that, I can say, okay, the thumbnail is 150, but I would like for it to be 200, just so it's a little bit bigger. And now I can see those a little bit better. And I can also drag this panel out if I want to see more pictures or less. It makes it a little bit easier. So right now I'm going to incorporate a cover page picture, which I'll use this one. Obviously, I can see all kinds of different deficiencies and pictures that I took. And I know this is not the standard number of pictures you'd have in a report. So I can do one of two things. I can double click on this picture and it will automatically open the editor, and I'll be able to modify it, and when I click OK, it will insert it. Or I can drag and drop it by like holding on the picture with the left button on my mouse and dragging it in. But for my purposes, I'm going to double click. It opens it up. My settings are to have the picture small, but this is a cover page picture, so I think I would prefer for it to be large. So I can use these tools up here, small, medium, large. We also have annotation tools over here. so that you can make changes to the report. And there's also ways to control the default size on this as well. And I'm going to click large, and I'm going to click OK. And now it shows up in this box, and I know that's my cover page. So, okay, so I've inserted the photo, and you'll notice that in the film strip on the right, that's what we call this over here, that photo is not in that film strip anymore because it disappeared because I put it in the report, because I have a setting that says when I select a picture and I put it in the report, please hide that picture so I don't have to dig through it every time I go and find another picture. So the reason it's hidden is because I have this little eye with the line through it selected. If I select this other one that has just the regular eye, it'll show the picture grayed out. Here it is right here in my film strip. But I don't really like to see that. It also puts the picture, once I insert it in the report, into a folder called a photo locker, which basically keeps all the pictures in one neat place so that you can access it really easily later. It just makes it, and it lives with the report data, so it makes it a lot easier to find things. But I don't like for the grayed out pictures to show because I feel like it takes too long for me to dig through, so I'm gonna hide it again. Completed this information, we brought in a cover page picture, and now we're gonna get into components. Components are sections. But if I click on the word components over here on the left, it brings the sections of the report into the center of the screen. And that means it allows me to reorganize things or rename things, get rid of things if I want to. This is the main list. Let's say, for example, you didn't want it to say roofing. You wanted it to say roof systems, right? And you would want to make a change that you wouldn't have to change over and over again. So this is going to be our very first template modification. So up until this point, we've been writing a report for a customer, and everything we've done is for this report. But now we're stepping into the realm where now we can do both, write the report and modify the template for ourselves so that we can be more efficient report writers as we learn the software. So I'm going to click on roofing here, and I'm going to use the Edit T button. So edit in HomeGauge means to change. It means to fix it the way you want it. And I'm going to modify roofing. So I'm going to click Edit T, and instead of calling it roofing, I'm going to call it roof system. System, that's fine. Roof system. And I've changed that. Now when I click OK here at the bottom, you're going to notice that at the top right, this button that is currently grayed out, this is going to turn blue, because once I make a template change, the Save T button lights up. The Save T button is your very best friend in customizing your template so that over time, your report writing gets faster. So you can add your own comments and customize the report outline and basically make it your voice. This report is your product, it is your brand, it represents you. So you really need to find your voice in this, and you don't have to use what we hand to you, otherwise everyone's reports would be the same, right? Which we don't want. So I'm going to click OK down here, and that Save T button is going to light up. And there you go, it lit up. Every time you make one template change, you look to this and make sure it lit up. And if it lit up, you click it, you save it. This is not something that's going to automatically save. Yes, once you get the hang of it, you can make 5 changes, and as long as you're making those changes properly, you can click Save T button after you've done 5 changes. But while you're learning, it is important that you click the Save T button each time so you get that validation that you did the right thing. Template changes require a couple of steps typically. You're not just typing in a box or checking something off. It means that you have made a decision to take a few extra steps to customize your foundation for your report. I'm going to click Save T. So this means if I closed my report and reopened it, reopened a new one, like started a new one, this would say roof system on the new one. All future reports will now have roof system instead of roofing. The other thing you might want to do here is you can change the order of things. So maybe you don't want roof system first, you want it second. So you're just going to look to your report, your template modifying tools rather. And what we do here, if I wanted roof system to be second, I would just use this down T button and I would click it once. Once I do that, the Save T button is going to light up because I'm using a template modifying tool to make the change. I'm going to click once and immediately my Save T button lights up and I click it. And then I say, oh no, really, I really wanted roof systems. I have no idea what I was thinking. I'm crazy. And it's wild. You're wild if you're putting roof systems second. Oh my gosh. So we have this first again, and my Save T button has lit up and I want to save it again. Customizing this list, adding new things, that type of thing. You can do whatever you like here. There's some tricks and tips that I would have if you're wanting to create similar systems or have some ideas. HomeGauge has some excellent videos and also some information on support.homegauge.com for this type of work. As far as report writing though, is maybe you get to the property and you discover there's no garage. You don't want garage taking up real estate in your report, and you don't want to have to say, oh, there was no garage and put a comment and then have all this stuff. We want to exclude garage. We would just do this once on the fly. So if you come over here to the right, you can see that these fields where you can check something off for exclude. And I'm just going to check in this box and it's going to exclude garage entirely. We'll see it, but it'll have an X next to it and it will be grayed out. So if I click on that, it'll be grayed out over here. You'll notice. It also renumbered my inspection sections automatically. Clearly, we wouldn't want it to go from 2 to 4, so the software knows to renumber things, okay? What if you get there, and what if there's no garages in your area? I'm gonna include that back, and you'll notice that wasn't a template change, that Save T button didn't light up. What if I really don't have a lot of garages in my area, and I would like garage to be available to me, but I want it to be excluded on default? So that would be a template change. I can select garage, and then I would use my Edit T button to make that change. I'm going to fix it the way I want it, so I'm going to click on the wrench. You'll notice at the bottom here, there's an option that says, exclude this section by default, which takes effect on the next new report. What that means is, when I set this setting right now, and I check this off and I click OK, and my Save T button lights up and I click it, it means that I still have to manually exclude garage from this one report because it's not going to be automatically excluded until I start a new report. Check that box off, click OK, save my template, and now I'm going to, because there's no garage, I would exclude this for this particular report, okay? So it really just depends on what you discover, what the norms are in your region. Not a lot of people in my neighborhood have garages. If they do, they were, added later. So it really depends on what you discover. Now, let's say you get to the property. I'm going to include that back right now. Let's say you get to the property and there's 2 garages because, wow, what I wouldn't do for 2 garages. We've got an attached garage and a detached garage. We've got workshop heaven over here. But you need to be sure that you include both of these structures, okay? Well, I don't want to make that permanent change to my template because that's not likely that I'm going to have 2 garages on a ton of properties. So what I want to do is I want to, on the fly, add a second garage. What we call this is called duplicate sections. We're duplicating a section on the fly for this one report. If I select garage, I'm going to use these other tools right here, duplicate sections, to create an attached and a detached garage. I'm going to click on this double plus sign right here. This is not a template change. It's just for this one report. I'll double click on that. So here are my choices. If I didn't like these, I could just type whatever I wanted to type in these boxes to call it whatever type of garage, but attached and detached seems pretty standard. So I will click on attached on the left-hand side, and you see how it shows up in this box. And I'm going to select detached. So now I have the 2 choices. And when I click OK, we have created 2 garages here. You'll notice that the word garage over here is not blue anymore. It's black because it's created these 2 other structures. And when I go into there, I'll see all the same inspection items for each one, so I can inspect each structure properly, and it's easier for my client to see all the compact information in one section, okay? This is useful for if you get large structures that have multiple heating and air systems, for example. You might have 2 or 3 heating and air systems. You might have multiple, like a separate roof system. Maybe you want to inspect the garage, separately, or there's a shed or something. You can do a bunch of different variations here. Now we have the 2 garages. If I wanted to get rid of one and I was like, oh no, this is some other property, I don't even want what I was thinking. All I have to do is remove one of these, and it will go back to just garage, because it's never going to have garage in one sub garage, it has to have 2 or more in order for this to function this way. So I'll click on attached, and I'm going to use that same duplicate sections tools to just use this X and get rid of that. And as soon as I do, you'll notice it's not a template change. I'll be back to just the standard garage. And it just goes back. Not a template change, you'll see. That's just for this on the fly. I discovered something unique about this property and I really don't want to apply it to everything in all my future reports. So that's called duplicate sections. If you wanted to add a section here, you know, HomeGauge allows for 360-degree photos to be incorporated in their reports. And it's not uncommon for inspectors to like to create a whole section just for, I guess you'd call it a home tour of the whole house, because all you're doing is taking one picture in each room and it gets a 360-degree view. If you wanted to add something like that, you could add T. You'd add T. A new section called home tour maybe. And I would click OK. It's going to light up my Save T button. Here it is up here. Super important. I really don't want you to forget to be clicking that, because I don't want you to get overconfident and thinking that you're doing things right. And if you make several changes and you made 4 changes and one of them wasn't right, it's only going to save the 3 changes you did properly. And then you're like, my HomeGauge is broken, but it's not. So we want to save T. But the only other thing I have to do for that home tour though, is now that I've created it, I do need to come over here on the left-hand side and click on it, and I have to create an inspection item so that if I add the photos that they show up in the report. I would just come in here and add T from here, and I could just say photos or something, call it something short. And then you could add as many photos as you care to, and then the Save T button lights up. So we've got adding, editing, reorganizing, duplicate sections, and then adding a new photo gallery if you care to. So next we're moving into the inspection item. What we have here is the inspection items. This works similarly as the components or anything else you want to add. If you want to change roof coverings permanently, you would use your Edit T button. Let me get my little pointer. You'd use the Edit T button. If you wanted to add a new inspection item here, you would add T. And as you did those things, you would save your T. You would also, if you want to reorganize them, you could use the up T and down T. So you're just looking to these template modifying tools to customize this list the way you want it, keeping in mind it will be reflected that way in your final product. So if you moved roof coverings last or anything like that. The other thing, and I'm just going to cover styles and materials here in a second too. And the same thing goes for styles and materials. We've got these tabs. And I'll actually talk about this a little bit more in depth, but you can reorganize these, change these, add things using the template modifying tools. And then we have overview. Overview has information that shows up before the section. So this section was roof system, and after the section. This information is typically based on your standards, whatever your standards are that you follow. It's optional. You don't have to have it in here. I mean, I guess unless your standards require them. You can customize this type of thing, but HomeGauge starts you off with this. It does, I believe, back in the day, this was based on ASHI standard. So at this point, we're like, let's start writing a report. How can I add a comment to my report? So if we're doing that, we are coming to an inspection item, and you can do something simple, like type something in this box, right? You can just say this roof has too many layers, which I know is not in detail enough, but I'll just keep it simple for the moment. And you could be done with it, and you don't have to do anything else. Maybe you're a lightning fast typist, and there's no way HomeGauge could like help you write any faster. I doubt that, but let's just say, for example, that's all you needed to do, and that's fine. And you could just keep going through everything. You can indicate whether something is inspected, not inspected, repair, replace, inspected, not inspected, not present, repair, replace, or exclude. You can change these. These match those definitions we looked at earlier. Obviously, if you change the definitions, you would want to update this. So I can click repair, replace. When I do that, it checks off this box at the bottom of the comment box, way down here, the very bottom. And it indicates that because I said this was repair, replace, that it should send this comment to the summary. And typically, not even typically, it is a standard that if you indicate something needs repair, and you have said what that repair needs to be, you should include a photograph. HomeGauge knows that. If you skipped that, you would wind up, it would warn you that you had incomplete information. So I'm going to throw a picture in here. I have my photos over here. I don't think I have a great one for a roof, but I'll just use this guy right here. So I'm going to double click on this photo. Hopefully you can see it because the little file name is popping up. I'll double click. I could make it larger, but I'm going to leave it small for now. And I'm going to use this left arrow that's selected, and I'm going to put a little notation here so people know what to look for. And then I can click OK, and it puts it in my report. And that photo disappears out of my film strip, so it gets out of the way so I can continue to see what I need to see. But let's say this isn't really my choice of comment. I'm thinking surely HomeGauge has a more articulate, eloquent way to describe multiple layers. So I'm going to erase this comment. You can highlight it and hit delete on your keyboard if you care to, or you can use the little eraser at the top of this comment box and it will delete anything that is in the field. If I come to roof coverings up here, I can access the comment library one of two ways. I can either double click on roof coverings and it will show me the comments that HomeGauge has available, or I can click on this little magic, we call it the magic wand. I don't find this to be efficient because you've already got your mouse on the inspection item typically, but you could click here to get that list of narratives. So here's my list, right? And you'll notice there's a few comments in here that have this, it looks kind of kooky language. This is what's called smart text. It allows you to populate a comment based on your discoveries. So it can be one comment, but you can complete it in a variety of different ways. I would say it kind of reminds me of Mad Libs when you pick the adjective, you pick the verb, and you pick all the different things to complete the sentence, only it's not as funny. But you can, it's actually not too hard to use, but I'm not going to talk about that today simply because we're just focusing on standard building. Have a look at it. It really is useful, and although it can take a little bit of time to get used to, it can make report writing fast. I have hardcore smart text lovers out there. Let's see, so I'm just going to use this very top. So I have this one with an X next to it. The roof life is gone, 1 to 2 years. It should need to be replaced. So I have selected it, and I'm going to insert as one comment. So if I had selected multiple comments here, I could itemize them out, meaning they would show up in separate tabs, so I could put separate pictures with them by selecting insert as itemized, but I only need this one right now. Insert as one comment, and there it is. So now I have indicated that this is a repair item. It has selected the summary down here, so I indicated it's repair. I have selected the summary. I have incorporated a comment, and I have put in a picture. And that's fantastic, that's great, and that makes it a lot faster. But what if I have a brilliant comment that I would like to use, I don't want to type it every time, and it's not in HomeGauge's library? Well, you can add things to the library, which is the whole point of a template and storing comments. So let's add a new comment. Well, let's go to flashing, this next inspection item here. If I double click on that, we have a whole bunch of narratives. Let's say my comment is not there. I'll hit cancel. And do I even have a flashing? But we're just going to pretend my pictures go with my comments. So I'm going to type a comment in here about flashing. The flashing is loose at the eastern corner of the home. I usually make up silly sentences, but I decided to be serious that time. So although I know this is not complete, I know we need to say a variety of other things about why it's an issue and how to repair it, but we're just going to leave it at that. I want to be able to access this comment next week when I discover this, and this is not terribly uncommon. Loose flashing is pretty common. I am going to add this to my library. I'm going to use this magic wand with the plus sign right here. And that is has a little plus sign. This is a template change. We're going to take a couple of steps, okay? If I click the magic wand with the plus sign, it opens up this subscreen. I would say give it a short name. This allows you to organize it in a list if you wanted to organize it in alphabetical order by the short name. The other thing I want to do here is I want to select the summary. My preference in how a summary gets created is to tell the comment so the comment knows that it's a summary item. So at the bottom of this subscreen right here, I can click this and it will allow me to select the summary so that when I incorporate this in my report, it automatically checks off. So I'm going to pick that and I'm going to select summary and click OK. And here I am at the bottom. It indicates that I have selected my summary. And now when I click OK here, it is going to prompt me to select a category. So I want you to think of this category list as maybe a filing cabinet in your office where you have all these nice manila folders and you have all your stuff organized. The list is like those manila folders. If you don't like them, there's other ways to change them, but it's better to choose something close than it is to not choose anything at all. So I'm going to click OK. It's prompting me saying you're going to need to select a category. Okay. And here's my category. It is my preference is to collapse this list. I find that having to dig through it when I know where I need to go isn't very efficient. So at the bottom here, we have a plus and a minus. I'm going to click the minus and it will collapse this menu so I can just see the primary categories. I need to be in roofing, right? There's my roofing. And then I have flashing right there. So just pick the closest thing. There's ways to make more detailed choices here, but this is where we start. And then I will click OK. When I click OK, my Save T button is going to light up. And there it is. Always save your template, save your template, save your template. I had a home inspector mail me a t-shirt that said, save your T. I'm not kidding. Click it. There we go. And now I can erase this comment just like I did a minute ago by using the little eraser above the comment text. And I can pretend, oh, it's tomorrow. I need my brilliant flashing comment. I can then double click on flashing. And there's my comment at the very bottom. The flashing is loose at the eastern corner of the home. And I would then insert it as one comment. Okay, that's how you can continue to add your own narratives. You can remove HomeGauge's narratives if you care to, but this allows you to find your own voice and create your own. This is part of your brand. It is really super important. You don't want, you don't have to be like Shakespeare or anything, but you don't need to sound like every other inspector in your town. You need to find a way so that people understand what you're saying. They really need to feel like you're speaking to them and not at them. That's my tidbit. That's my big business point for you all. Now we've added some comments. The other thing we can do here is obviously say that this is a repair replace. And the skylights and chimneys, let's say those things were fine, right? I can double click on the column header here for inspected. And it will fill out all the remaining boxes, so I don't have to click in every single one. So it will complete everything else. If there were 10 things in this list that were all fine and the only 2 that weren't were just these repair replace, then it would just check that off for me, because getting your mouse into each one of those can take time and you don't have to do it that way. That's how to add a comment. And the next thing we need to incorporate here is styles and materials. A lot of, I guess in the past, people would say, oh, I'm going to put a sentence, the roof covering is made of metal and architectural, shingles or whichever. Honestly, people who read a report, we all know that they really want to get some information really easily, and having things in a checklist or a list format sometimes helps with that. And that's how styles and materials show. Roof covering, I can just say 3-tab shingle and metal. That's super common in my region. How did I view the roof? I view the roof from one of these items. But you know what's missing here? A drone, right? That's it's becoming more and more popular on how to view a roof. So let's add that to this choice on the right. The choices on the right. So this item on the left and the list on the right, they're actually one thing, okay? As I navigate through here, if I click on skylights, this list changes because this list goes with skylights. This list goes with how did I view the roof? I would say every standard in the country requires that you indicate how you viewed the roof. So I'm going to highlight viewed the roof from, and I'm going to use my edit T icon here at the top so that I can edit this item and include drone. Here's my list, and all I need to do is use this little plus sign and type in drone. And click OK. So there's drone. And I would click OK again. My Save T button lit up just now because I made a template change. I made a couple of steps and now I need to save that. And now I have drone as a choice. If there are no skylights, I could just exclude skylights. Chimney exterior, let's hope it's not vinyl, but let's say it's rock. And so there we go. So now we've completed this. If you wanted to add something new to the items on the left and add a new selection of choices on the right, I actually like to use electrical as an example there. 2 points. In electrical, we have this section called local and of main, location of main and distribution panels. I don't see why that's there necessarily, because I think indicating that in the style of materials section is more efficient. Ideally, you could just delete this, but I'm going to come to styles and materials. And if I want to add something to this left-hand list so that I have new choices on the right, I need to add T. And I'll put panel location, right? And I'll use my plus sign, just like I did a second ago, to add drone, so that I can add some choices, because I can add something to the left, but if it doesn't have any choices, that really isn't helping me much. So I'm going to use the plus sign and I'll say garage. And I'll click it again and I'll say hallway. And in my very, very tiny house, I have the electrical panel in the master bedroom. And obviously you want to monitor your capitalization consistency. However you do it in one sec, you just need to be consistent. Otherwise it doesn't look neat. We'll click OK. And the only other thing you have to do here, and it's for other potential features that you might use later, and I'll just say, just do it, and you'll know why as we get into other features in another webinar. At the bottom here, it says inspection item parent. Right now, I don't have one selected. All that is the inspection item that you would want to associate with this panel location. So you would just click select and it would bring you the list of inspection items. And for me, you really just need to pick distribution panels, because down the line, we're just going to remove the location of main and distribution panels. And click OK. And our Save T button lit up again. We're just going to say, OK, we've gone through several things. I'm going to throw a few pictures in and we're going to upload this report. So let's talk a little bit more about pictures. So let's put some pictures in here. Exterior. Let's just put doors, right? So let's say the door right here, I have this picture right here. I'll double click on it and I can indicate whatever the problem is. That's a little square there, and click OK. And I have another door here. So I'm going to say that there's something wrong with this door. I'm going to go here to my magic wand and I'm going to say, do we have nothing about a doorbell there? That's no fun. I'm just going to type in a comment saying the doorbell is broken. If I wanted to save that to my library, I could click this magic wand with the plus sign right here, give it a short name, just to kind of review that again. Select the summary. I know I'm going a little fast. Clicked OK. OK again. And now I'm going to pick my category. I minimize this by clicking the minus sign. Interior, oh, actually it's exterior. Exterior entry door, right? Okay, save the template. So I have that picture, and I can add other types of, you could add multiple pictures if you care to. So let's look if we've got multiple that I can, here's another door. So we'll say this door, and I'm gonna click on both of these. So we have, you see how there's red around both of these? There's a red border here because I selected this one and I selected this one. You only need to click on them. You don't need to use your shift or control keys to pick multiples. So let's say that it's really obvious what's wrong with these doors. I don't need to open that editor. I just want to throw them in this section with doors, right? Let's say that they all have the same problem. The doorbell is broken or whichever. They're all going to be here. I'm going to use this little tool up here, right here. The plus sign, single plus sign would open the editor. The double plus sign will just throw it in the report without editing. It's just going to put it right in there. And now you notice it really quickly, that editor opened, but it closed right back up. And you can see I have 3 pictures in here now, and I can navigate through them using these arrows. okay? So I think that this allows you to put multiple pictures in at one time. If you don't need to edit, or if you do need to edit, you could use that single, the little single plus sign and make your edits accordingly, okay? So as I've been writing this report and indicating that things need repair, replace, it has been creating my summary for me. If I come down here on the left, on the far left menu, we have summary. So obviously we don't want people just reading the summary because there's other important information in the body of the report, but the summary is typically something offered so that people can see the high points, the important points. So I'm going to click here on summary, and I can see these are all the comments that I have in my summary. And as I click on each one, it'll show me the comment and the photo. Oh, we didn't have a photo for flashing, so we need to add that. And then here's our photo for the doors. Let's throw something in for flashing real quick. And I'm actually just going to, there's some flashing in this picture if we looked really super close. And there it goes. So in the summary section, we have one summary right now. If I click on this tab at the top, right here, it allows me to edit the summaries. If you're someone who would want to add multiple summaries, you could do that by using your add T, and then you could say a safety summary or a maintenance summary, and you could have multiple summaries, and then it would give you different options when you insert your comments. These are your overviews, your headers and footer for your summaries. These are also standard, pretty much basically based on standards, ASHI standards. And this basically tells your customer, this is not the whole report. You should be looking at the whole report, not just the summary. So let's have a look at what the report looks like right now. I'm going to go to upload. Even though it's not going to upload my report right away, it's going to ask me if I want to. You'll notice I'm getting this message. It says, wait a minute, you haven't answered all the questions. Well, I know that because I haven't gone through every single one of these sections and filled everything out. If this were a real report, you would need to stop and say, no, I don't want to continue, and start to navigate through the items that are missing. So I'm going to show you what that does really quickly. So I say, no, I want to go to the find my first unanswered question. And it says, wait, you had this flagged and you didn't indicate the age of the house. You did indicate it, but you didn't unflag it. So I need to unflag it. And now it's finished. All I have to do now is use this Find Unanswered tool at the top, Find Unanswered, and go to Find Next. It will bring me to the next item in my report that is incomplete. I didn't indicate the style of the siding, so it might be beveled, and my siding material could be wood, and my exterior doors are steel. Appurtenance, I have a balcony, and then driveway is concrete. So I could see that those things weren't complete at that point. And then I could continue to use Find Next. It would navigate me to everything, and I would then complete my report. I'm not going to do that because I'd be navigating through everything. But you should never get that message. If you go to upload and you get this message, something is missing in your report, and you should not click yes. I'm going to do it just for our training purposes today, but you need to find out what's missing in your report. You don't want to look like you didn't do a thorough job. I'm going to click yes here, and it's going to show me this list. So these are print options. Basically all they are is within each one of these items that you highlight, you can go to edit over here, and it's going to show you everything with a check mark that's in the report that gets included. If I didn't want a table of contents, I could uncheck that. If I didn't want to include an invoice in my report, I could uncheck that. So it really depends on what you want your report to be, what do you want to be included there, okay? Other things we have here are the style and format of the report, this tab at the top. I've selected a narrative style that is kind of open and clean. There's lots of other styles that you could choose from. Also, we have the logos tab. I've added my logo. There's a link in the email that I sent out for the signing up of this class that shows you how to do that. And then miscellaneous, you probably wouldn't come here too terribly often. You could customize a few things. Instead of items on your inspection items, maybe you want to put findings. You can customize that a little bit. But what I'm looking at right here is, how do I want to send my report? So everything that's in this print option, all the elements of the report, everything meets my needs for full report for upload. And I'll have the checkbox there, and I'm going to click OK. And here it is. Here's my logo, all my information. There's lots of other cover pages to choose from. This one looks pretty plain Jane. Here's my table of contents that I can navigate through. Here's my roof system. I can see my pictures, my comments, everything. And then when this gets online, these pictures are actually expandable. And if I go back to the table of contents, I can go to my summary and just see all the compact information. I was messing with picture sizes there, my apologies. But if I look at my report, which I advise you to do, look at your report, don't just assume everything is right. And anyway, and then you would upload it. So now we're going to upload it to distribute it. And when I click this upload button at the bottom, it is going to ask me if I would like to distribute my report, and it will then take me to the HomeGauge dashboard where I can do that. HomeGauge distributes its reports in HTML. It looks like a website versus a PDF. Yes, I would like to distribute this. I'm clicking yes. And now, oops, it opened it over here. Give me a sec. Let me pull it over. I have two monitors. Oh, it logged me out because I took too long. Here's my report uploaded. Normally it would open right there for you. There's my report. I need to send it to Mary and the realtor. I'm going to preview the report really quickly before I do this. So let's just look at some differences. View document. The key thing I want you to notice here is that when you put your cursor over the picture, it puts this magnifying glass there so that I can click on that and it would open it. My picture quality is not all that great, but it allows the customer to see really close up. So to me, that justifies putting the pictures a little smaller in your report so that if they do print it up, it's not going to kill 17 trees and empty a gallon of ink, which is ridiculously expensive. They have the option to view those pictures nice and close on the computer, and then to have a more environmentally friendly option when printing it. We also have our table of contents here, which would navigate through the report, but it also pops out over here as you navigate. So no matter where I am in the report, that menu is available to view. So just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, I'm going to go back to my reports page, which is right up here, and I'm going to send this report out. So right now, I just want to send the emails with the information they need to access the report. So I'm going to use this send emails information. I've got Mary here, and Shancy is the realtor. It was actually because I used my own email address, but no one has been sent this report. No one has been allowed to view it, and no one has viewed it. So I'm going to send that report notification email. We'll click on send emails. On default, it requires that you pick which documents go to whomever. So in this case, it's only an inspection. So both the agent and the buyer can have access. If there were an agreement involved here, the agent would not get a copy of the agreement because they can't agree to it for the client. It has to be the client. So I have checked off who should have permission. If I want them to be able to forward it to, say, Uncle Charlie, who knows everything about houses, I'm going to give them that option. I will know when they send it. I will know the email address. All that information is provided to the inspector so they know who is being distributed, the report's being distributed to. Here we have the body of the email this is for the buyer. It looks a little funky, right? These are merge fields, or they're variables. And this gets populated after you send it. This is not your customer's username and password. It's just some code that allows that information to be included just for them. It's really not appropriate for you to know. This will populate their name. And the same thing goes for the agent. It gives them a link and the information they need to access the report. So I'm going to send the emails. Let's see if that is real quick. Send emails. And then the email goes off to the customer. There's some other tools that you could use here for following up. TRM is called time release messaging. We're not going to cover that today, but you could set up a thank you, something like that. And now when I go back to my reports on the left-hand side, you can see that they have been allowed to view the report. They have been sent the report, and when they view it, there'll be a check mark here. When they view it for the first time, you will get an email notification stating that they viewed it. And also this history here will track how many times they viewed it. So if I click here, we only see that I sent it, like the inspector sent it, but as the customer starts to interact with the report, you'll see the IP address where they were located, the time and date that they viewed the report, if they forwarded the report to someone, that type of thing, so that you can know what's going on with it. I think by some miracle that I'm finished. Let me take a look here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. There's a variety of things you can do from the dashboard as well, but we'll do another webinar on that. Does anyone have any questions? I'm gonna say no. You're up if y'all still with me. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up then. If you have any other questions or you'd like to have some more information, you can email support@homegauge.com. You can also call our support team. We offer this basics webinar every month, the second Tuesday of the month at 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern. So I hope you enjoyed this, and please let us know if we can help you. We really appreciate you guys, and we know you've got choices. Have a great afternoon.